The Shade, Issue 3, written by James Robinson, art by Cully Hamner. We left off last issue with Shade making a deal or something with a guy named Von Hamner, who basically said, all right, the Caldicots are after your blood or something. He sent Von Hamner to England in order to deal with that, and for some reason Shade was going to Australia. We pick up with him reminiscing about his first time to Australia back in 1874 and how it was nice and quiet and calm and nothing was as crazy as it was this time. And we flash to this time, and as he arrives, he's been met by a bunch of hoverbike riding, gun wielding crazy people, and he was provided help with a local hero named the Argonaut. I want to go more in detail, but the scene literally just ends after this page, and then we don't find out anything about the Argonaut or the things. So, it happened. So he's talking to, I think it's the local mayor, the chief inspector, who I guess he's friends with in some regard. And he offers up the Caldecott, Darnell Caldecott, who changed his name to John Cross and lives way out in the center of Australia in a place called Alice Springs, up on a mountain. And apparently, it's not guarded by a lot of people. It's only guarded by one lizard god, who in the belief system of the Arrernte, I butchered that, but regardless, of the native people there, is basically the creator of humanity for their belief system. So it's going to take a hell of a lot of power in order to defeat the lizard god and get into Darnell Caldecott's place. So Shade asks, okay, well, if I need some help, then I need to find a man by the name of Diablo Blacksmith. And apparently, back in the day, Shade came to Australia for a jewelry robbery. And Diablo Blacksmith acted as a vigilante. He was a magician, and he wasn't great at the magic, but he's very cunning and very deductive. So he did not get off on the best of terms with Shade, but he comes asking for advice, and Diablo basically offers it up. He's like, look, if you want to be able to take on the lizard god, if you want to be able to take on, his name is Mangar Kunja. If you want to be able to take on the lizard god, you're going to have to become in oneness with Dreamtime. And apparently that's just an important thing to his people. He's from that same native people who believe in the lizard god. And it's just I'm looking for where he describes what it is. Doesn't really say, but it's just a feeling of, one with the world and one with the soul and nature and all that stuff. Just, a oneness. And Shade's like, well, I don't have a soul, so that's not really going to work for me. So he's like, oh, but you're on a journey of change, and it's very important. I can see that within you, and you need to really stick to your path. Otherwise, people around you are going to get hurt. And Shade's like, well, can't have that. So he goes to Alice Springs. He goes to the place where Darnell is holed up in, and he gives a nice little history about Alice Springs here, of all the things that were there. And then he's like, all right, but none of that matters because I'm literally fighting a giant lizard god. He was a bit underestimated of the size of it, and also the fact that basically nothing that Shade does seems to have any effect on it. It also has a special power of knives and fire. That's its main two things. So he's talking to it, and he's basically just trying to convince it like, hey, I'm not a threat. I'm not here to hurt Darnell Caldecott. I just want to talk, and I'm not here to hurt you either. But he's like, but there is great evil in you, and da-da-da-da-da. And they basically just go back and forth while fighting the whole time. And he keeps trying to reason with it, being like, look, I know that you think I'm bad, and I was bad. I mean, I was really bad, but now I'm good, so... But the lizard god is just like, nope, don't care. Doesn't matter. No matter what you say, your words are meaningless. Until finally it gets to the point where Shade clicks and he remembers the thing about Dreamtime, and he's like, wait a minute, it's the oneness or whatever. It's the eternal spirit. So he allows himself to like enter the dream time or let it take hold of him some way, and he uses his shadow powers to create a giant swan, which shows the lizard god that it's not an act of aggression, it's an act of faith, of that he is able to be good. And the lizard god takes a moment and he looks into the path that Shade has taken of both good and evil, and he's like, you are evil, but you are also good, you may enter. And he opens up the giant doors for Shade. And Shade, as he's walking up this staircase to go see Darnell, he's like, I'm nervous, and I don't know why I'm nervous, because we've met before, but still, it's a long time ago. And he walks in, and he sees Darnell, and he says, hello. And lying in bed, hooked up to all these machines, is this old, dying man, Darnell, who responds to Shade, hello, grandfather. And that's where we leave off. Darnell Caldecott is Shade's grandson. So, yeah, this one felt like much more straightforward than any previous issue before it. Mainly because it just followed the one plot. And it may have been a very superpower plot. It was more about just, the oneness of Dreamtime and all that sort of spiritual stuff. But it was still just a solid understanding of here we are, point A to point B. And I like that. I like that just so I can get a handle on, okay, what are we doing right now? And this whole thing was just to get to Caldecott. And I like that. It's very solid. As such, though, I'm not sure how much it actually is like forwarding the plot, because theoretically this whole issue could have just been he arrives in Australia and talks to Caldecott. All the stuff about the lizard god, I guess you could consider character development, but it's limited. It's very whatever. But no, art-wise, it's fantastic. I do love the way the writing handles Shade. Like, I'm not doing a good job of showing just how good of a speaker he is. He is a very well-spoken man. And so is pretty much everyone he talks to. It's very well written. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 7.5. I really do like this series. I think I'd like it more if I read the stuff that came before it, like Shade and Starman, I believe it was. But as it stands, this is very good on its own, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where it goes.